Protesting the multi-billion-dollar four-state oil pipeline that would put the only source of clean drinking water for their entire reservation at risk. And this weekend, as lawsuits are playing out in court, it was reported that the companies behind the pipeline instructed their bulldozers in North Dakota to clear a number of prayer and burial sites, permanently destroying culturally significant artifacts of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Interestingly, the locations of those sacred areas were only made known to the company the day before the destruction in court papers filed by the tribe to halt construction of the pipeline. So, despite the fact that neither the Dakota Access Pipeline nor Energy Transfer Partners has one specific necessary easement needed from the Army Corps of Engineers to begin digging the tunnels that are at the center of the controversy, and despite the fact that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers doesn't oppose temporarily halting the construction of the pipeline, and despite the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues calling on the U.S. government to provide the Sioux with a, quote, fair, independent, impartial, open, and transparent process to resolve this serious issue and to avoid escalation into violence and further human rights abuses. Despite all of this, when 500 people, mostly Native American, marched to the construction site to mourn the loss of the sacred sites that had just been bulldozed, they were treated, quite frankly, like vermin. Energy Transfer spokesperson Vicki Granato claims the protest is at fault and is being misrepresented in the press, saying unwarranted violence occurred on private property under easement to Dakota Access Pipeline, resulting in injury to multiple members of our security personnel and several dogs. Donald Presky, spokeswoman for Morton County Sheriff's Office, reported that 4 private security guards and 2 guard dogs were injured during the confrontation. And he claims that there were no reports of protesters being injured, which contradicts tribe spokesman Steve Sittingbear, who told The Guardian 6 people had been bitten by security dogs, including a young child. At least 30 people were pepper sprayed. See, it contradicts photos and video evidence from protesters that show violent, untrained dog handlers telling their animals to bite protesters. The reports of children and even a pregnant woman being injured by the private security teams. The reason that the protest site at the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation is the largest gathering of Native Americans in 100 years is because of its importance. We, as citizens of this United States, have a duty to the land we stole from the indigenous people who were here before any of our ancestors. We have a duty to stand with the Sioux, to protect every inch of this nation from harm. Sadly, that harm often comes from within, and from those who only care about profit, not people, and who don't seem to realize that we didn't inherit this land from our ancestors or even the Sioux ancestors. We're borrowing it from our children and the children of the future. Recently, Sean Stown sat down with Phyllis Young, former council member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and co-founder of Women of All Red Nations, to discuss this protest. Sean started by asking her what outcome she ultimately hoped for in the battle between Big Oil and the Sioux.
No pipeline. No pipeline is our key objective in defense, is that we do not want a pipeline. We do have alternative energy that we are looking at and we are developing, and we are going to ensure that it's safer to develop that new technology and to it's a cleaner fight.
So speaking of the fight, describe to me a little bit what's going on as far as the protests are concerned. We've heard reports that water has been taken away from the protesters' camp, that there's been arrests and a certain level of harassment going on. But describe more more to us what the situation actually looks like on the ground.
Well, the governor of North Dakota initially offered assistance, and he gave us medical mobiles. He helped us with guarantees that he wanted to work with us. But we ourselves did not anticipate the response from Indian country. So 120 Indian nations have come here, and they have supported us. So we are asking the United Nations Human Rights Commission for observers to come here to see the police brutality that was used by the Morton County Police and the State Highway Patrol from North Dakota, and the security from Dakota Access. So there have been crimes, human rights violations against our women, particularly, and seeking injunctions and restraining orders against us, entire groups by Jane Doe and John Doe. And we have a human right to our own identification, and so they can use our names. They don't have to refer to us as Jane Doe or John Doe. So we have asked the UN Commission to eliminate racial discrimination. We have filed an action with them, and that is the court action is the racist action that the original route was in Bismarck, North Dakota, but it would contaminate their water. So they moved it 40 miles downstream and to Standing Rock and said, this is where it's going to be. So I don't get their notion that it's going to be safer for us at that juncture. So, but the governor, his announcement that he was removing the water and barricading our roads just gave us greater response from Indian country. Tribes have brought in generators. They have offered mobiles of any sort for medical, for whatever we need. The tribal response has been tremendous. And so we will continue without the governor's help. And he can take his mobiles, but tribal response has been incredible.
Now you were saying that under the suits being brought against you, that you're being listed as Jane Doe and John Doe. Now, why is that? Why does it not list your proper names?
Because they don't know our names. They when they started arresting people, they know our chairman and they know the tribal council members, the officials, but they don't know the people. And so it's like et al. In the legal system in America, the rest of you. So it's like we're Jane Does and John Does, but it's a whole new sophisticated form of oppression, and so we have to call upon the world, the UN Commission on Human Rights, the UN Commission to eliminate racial discrimination. We have the formal charge has been received by that commission, and the hearing will be in November.
On account of the protests, have you been able to actually stop construction at this point? Is it halted for the moment?
There was a petition to the Federal District Court in Washington, D.C. by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, and then 2 other tribes have joined the Yankton Reservation and the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. So we assume that under federal law that's pending, and you are given that time to wait until the court decision. The pipeline company did not wait. They just moved aggressively. So the access roads were barricaded, but in the night they went through and made an access road. So the protests were basically wait until the hearing, but they would not wait. So the people came and people responded to the continued action of the company to move aggressively. And we wanted our day in court, and this country doesn't operate on that kind of logic.
And now we give you all the 2016 presidential campaign trail news that the mainstream media needs 24 hours a day to tell you about in just 1 minute.
It seems that Trump has no love for those third parties, especially in the debates. He's saying he'd rather have a head-to-head debate with Hillary, aside from the low polling numbers of Johnson and Stein. But back in 2000, when the Reform Party was calling foul on their exclusion, Then Governor Jesse Ventura had some pretty strong backup on the issue.
So typical to lobbying, they're being lobbied and they're now doing their lobbying. Pretty sad.
Well, I agree 100% with Jesse. It's disgraceful. It's amazing that they can get away with it. It seems very, very unfair to me.
It seems very, very unfair.
Very unfair.
I agree with
And
Jesse
disgraceful
100%.
until I'm in the race and I actually would have to debate the two third-party candidates. Then it's not so unfair and disgraceful because, you know, at the end of the day,
I still agree with Jesse 100%.
Donald, come on,
much.
Donald. Why you gotta? Of all the things, you can't let Jill, you can't let
What are you
Jill
afraid
and
of?
Johnson into the debates.
wonder.
Why not? Why not? Let them debate.
You gotta wonder what he's afraid of. What's the big deal?
I mean, he's the guy who stood up there and beat all the other Republican candidates last
But he's
year.
afraid of two
Gary
little
Johnson and
low-polling
Jill
third
Stein.
party?
Very questionable. I mean, we know why Hillary's afraid of them, because Hillary's part of that two-party machine that Trump claims he's not part of, but clearly, someone's changed his feathers over the years, and what was once all about, hey, yeah, third parties, is now like, ooh, now that I'm a Republican and I got
He's
all
a
that.
very advantageous fella.
A little bit.
I mean, you never
a little
know
bit.
what could come next. Whatever
right.
gets very popular.
Yes, well.
Does whatever they want.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for you today. Remember, everyone in this world, we are not told we are loved enough, so I tell you all, I love you. I am Tyrell Ventura.
And I am Tabitha Wallace.
Everybody keep on watching those Hawks and have a great, great night out there.